All right, coming back here from some film analysis from that fantastic Eagles Commanders game. I want to transition here a little bit. Let's talk about them Hawks. Had a
Oh,
major um, shift here in the in the zeitgeist of the NFC West for the last couple of years, and the Seahawks taking first place, taking advantage of that L from San Francisco, and snagging a very nice win of their own at home against the Cleveland Browns, who up to this point have been playing like the premier defense in the NFL. There's just a lot to be happy here with. I'm surely that you've watched this game pretty closely, but if you don't mind, I've got some stuff to sort of jump off of here.
yeah. We said
One
we said
thing
you
that
can kind of take the lead on this.
Yeah, so one thing that really stood out to me, and that continues to stand out for me as the Seahawks continue to win, is how the young talent on both sides of the ball is like just stepping up in a massive, massive way. You had a really nice Jake Bobo end around touchdown in the red zone. Jake Bobo looking more and more every week like a very, very solid contributor, like somebody that is playing high above his pay grade. Really nice strip sack fumble also in the first half, recovered by Seattle. And then getting the ball out to Lockett early on. I think that's sort of the way that you have to do it is you use the talent of those guys and maybe some more niche sort of scheme looks, maybe personnel looks, where there's maybe not as many tendencies to look at on film. Really nice end around touchdown from Jake Bobo. And then JSN performing very well in this game as well. Had a really nice chunk screen early on. Gino broke out of a sack for a very nice touchdown to Lockett. And Cleveland ended up staying in this one. Getting the ball to all their playmakers, though, was the MO for the Seattle Seahawks in this one. Everybody contributed in the first half. And Reek Woolen was playing incredibly well. Had a really nice. There was this really. I actually can't even remember what ended up happening here, but there was like a Reek Woolen pick and Njoku catch. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like in the second quarter. Did that end up getting called a pick or a catch?
Basically, it was an overthrow from Walker, where it kind of sails over Joku's head. Woolen's in perfect position, kind of has a nice cradle catch. He has possession the whole time. What he does is he rolls onto his back, down by contact all the way. And then as he turns, he has the ball stuck in his arm right here, and he's going to get up to go celebrate because that's just the personality of Woolen.
Sure.
It's a bit of a young player moment, man. Like, it's kind of like that situation. Make sure you have possession. I think he may have heard a whistle, though, because maybe it'd been down by contact or been ruled that way. I'm not exactly sure whether they whistled at that moment, but basically what happens as he's getting up, ball in arm, Joku turns, sees him with the ball, and goes full on, Peanut Tillman punch mode to try and get that puppy out. And it did come out. But yeah, it was ruled down by contact, so he got the interception.
Okay. I just think really getting a lot of different contributors in a lot of different directions was the key to victory here for Seattle. Sorry to recycle a phrase, but I don't care. Get mad at me. Cleveland made some plays of their own. Naturally, this was a close game, 24-20, but this was a game where I think that was a statement for the Seattle defense, because this was a defense that up to this point I don't think has maybe been getting the credit that they deserve. Whereas the Cleveland Browns, seen as maybe if not the best defense in the NFL. I thought there were some really, really nice plays. Maurice Hirsch from the Browns had a really nice tip and pick. And then Trey Brown, I thought in the second half of this game played really, really well as well. I think that Gino in certain moments of this game had some questionable decision making. There was a throw late in the third quarter that should have been a pick six by Cameron Mitchell. Later on the second half of the game, I think is where the grit from the defense really begins to stand out, because a lot of the drives on Seattle's offense sort of began to stall out in the second half of the game. Garrett himself, Myles Garrett got himself a sack. Notice Cross there just kind of got tossed to the side on that one, but It's Myles Garrett. What are you going to do?
What I'll say this though, really, Myles Garrett is a guy you can never shut down fully. And
Right.
besides that play, I was very, very impressed with how Cross handled
Right.
Myles Garrett in this game. I mean, let's remember against, as you said, Ryan, in my opinion, the best defense in the entire NFL with the Browns. Held to the sack by Garrett, and other than that, Geno was pressured only twice in this game.
Right.
Mind you, with a backup right tackle in there
Right.
for the entirety, a 40-something-year-old Jason Peters out there sharing a little bit of time with Jake Curhan, I believe. But, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I really, the first thing I would mention, truthfully, and I'll give it back to you in a moment, but, you know, there's this offensive line coach in Seattle. His name's Andy Dickerson. And this guy has been doing a hell of a job with these guys, getting the backups ready to play. I mean, the fact that I know I've kind of defaulted to that excuse for Geno's decision-making and the fact that, you know, the offensive line shifting has occurred so much. And that's valid. I mean, it hasn't been perfect, but the fact that they've been able to hold in there and put together wins, put together key drives, they had a 80-something yard game-winning drive against the best defense in the entire NFL.
Right.
In this one, with that offensive line shuffle going on, the position coaches on Seattle are really at a high level. Him and BT Jordan doing the work with the pass rushers, the level of play he's been able to get out of Boye Mafe and the folks.
We'll talk about Boye Mafe.
Yeah, I see a really strong future for both of those guys. I think Andy Dickerson could be an offensive coordinator candidate in the near future for sure.
Yeah, I just really loved how, again, a little bit of a theme here, how Seattle was able to close this one out. Had a really big play from Jamal Adams, which is lovely to see.
He said he learned that one from Messi.
Messi. Little header to get the pick there. Also, I wanted to shout out Noah Fant. Have yourself a game. Really big plays and some really big moments. There was that one near the end of the game with a really big play down the sideline. Seattle was able to punch it in with a screen to JSN with just 38 seconds left. And then they went ahead and went out there, and they were able to close this one out, getting a sack on PJ Walker, and with Darrell Taylor being able to close that one out with the sack on PJ Walker, especially with Nwosu out. I feel like Taylor is playing exceptionally well. This is a defense that is not getting talked about enough. I know that this is just warming your heart to hear. I wish I was able to talk about my team like this.
Hey, they have a good defense too, though.
They do have a good defense. Just some really, really phenomenal stuff here from Seattle. Spencer, what were your main takeaways here?
Main takeaways, that's a tough one. There's a lot. I've done a ton of thinking about Seattle the past few weeks. Just trying to see exactly what is the problem offensively.
I'm just now noticing the coordination of the throwback logo too. Nice.
Yes, I have to mention that. How deliciously gorgeous did those throwbacks look in their debut here?
Looking nice.
Thank the Lord above that we were able to get a win in the first time. I don't know how I would have felt if we lost our first game in the throwbacks, but I had to rock the hat today. What I will say, I want to touch back on the Geno situation. There's a ton of chatter in the fan base right now about Geno's not doing enough. He's making bad decisions. What you mentioned about the near pick six, my dad actually was the one that had to point this out to me, because initially I actually kind of had a bit of that was a really ill-advised throw. And, you can criticize Geno for making the throw in that situation, but what I learned after the fact and what they said in the interviews was Jigba actually, on that route, he stopped when he was supposed to continue his progression to the sideline there. And that was what allowed the defender to jump the ball. What I will say is probably shouldn't have been thrown in the first place.
It's hard in situations like that where the route calls for throwing with anticipation. We see that all the time.
Exactly. And just not being on the same page, with the rook, it's not to be expected to some degree. But Yeah, I all in all, I love the way that they battled in this one, and it was a tough opponent. The I have my
Very
finger
tough
on the
opponent.
pulse. I have my finger on the pulse of the fan base better than anybody, I would say. I mean, many people, and yeah, I don't think anybody in the fan base was sure that they would come in here and get the win in this one, and they did it. So
Yeah, there was some tough scenes, but there was some really nice plays, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't think you've seen these ones, but I did pull some nice ones for you. If you want to join me for another trip down film lane here, Spencer, I'd love to have you accompany me.
yes, let's do it.
All right, Spencer. This is the Boye Mafe
Mm.
sack here. I thought this was really nicely done. Um, oh, sorry. Can you still see that?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Uh, really interesting alignment here is the first thing that I noticed. I mean, just you've got like a six tech and then like a wide nine tech. This is interesting. I don't know if this is something that happens frequently. Is this a look that Seattle typically gives to have just such wide D linemen here?
I mean, this is definitely a late game situation where they're trying to kind of put the stamp on it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I can't see the
Right.
timestamp for the game, but I think they're in something of a prevent. But they are pressuring four, which is a little bit interesting in a prevent, considering you have to have a tremendous amount of trust in your corners and your safeties to get the job done in an obvious passing down, and then still sending four.
Right. Yeah, I just really love the motor that Mafe plays with here. He's able to sort of give it a little on the tackle there, and then kind of just take advantage of the fact that PJ Walker himself, somebody that doesn't have a lot of snaps under his belt.
Well, worth
Um,
noting too, Ryan, that boy, I think it's getting overlooked tremendously, but Boye Mafe right now is I believe perhaps number one in the league in pass rush win rate. It's worth
it's also his
noting.
fifth consecutive game with a sack.
Yeah, he's been on an absolute tear, and it's refreshing to see one of our young kind of not necessarily a project. He was a high draft pick. Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of physical talent there, but it's getting refined and it's showing up in a big way. And the thing I would say, there is some nuance to that pressure rate number. He isn't seeing the same amount of double teams that the top end of his position are seeing, like a Bosa uh, and others. Parsons, Garrett in this game as well. But that being said, with Nwosu out, this was actually a game where they would have been paying him a ton of attention.
Right. Yeah, it's like I said, just guys that are able to be the next guy up and take some responsibilities for themselves, right? To take it upon themselves to make big plays in big moments. And Mafe has been playing at an incredibly high level. Glad to see that he's performing so well. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, just have yourself a day, Mafe. Fifth consecutive game with a sack. Very nicely done. I love the change of direction, high motor, great football IQ, sort of keeping contain on the edge there, and PJ Walker just in a near the end of the game situation, just has nowhere to go and gets swallowed up.
Kids putting it together.
100%. Move on to the next clip here. All righty, Spencer, you'll be very happy to see this one on here. We've got the Jamal Adams messy headbutt pick. One thing that immediately I noticed, even before, like when I was watching it live before the play was snapped, is this is exactly why you get Jamal Adams, right? It would have been nice to have this, maybe a little consistently for a little bit longer, but he's sort of like he's sort of giving a look here where he's trying to convince them that, I think, like trying to convince the offense that he's cheating both sides, convince PJ Walker that he's cheating both sides. He sort of cheats down this way a little bit, and then he'll back off to indicate maybe he's playing more man or zone. And he does this a couple of times. He kind of scoots up right there, and then he backs off, and then he'll scoot up again. Like especially with the tape that this guy put in the games that this guy put on tape in New York back in his heyday, so to speak. These sort of corner blitzes, he set records for these kind of looks, and just how fast he's able to just get into the face of PJ Walker is insane. He's clearly playing at a much healthier level than we've seen him play in a very, very long time. And another thing, maybe the other angle in this all 22 will show it a little bit better. With this is Clark, if I'm not mistaken, correct? 57.
57's Clark. Yep.
Yep. So playing again this really, really wide like 9 tech, and just really great really great synchronicity. I'm probably using the wrong word with this play call. Excuse me. He fires off this edge so fast. Like I think that it's not even to the point of getting to the quarterback, but just making this tackle vacate the space. I thought it was really nicely done.
Yeah, I agree completely. And
Excuse me.
in terms of with PJ Walker, I mean, if we checked his Madden stats, so to speak, his play recognition would not be the highest of his stats. Right. But at the end of the day, like, I think that's one thing to comment on Jamal, where he has really, really progressed in that way, where you're saying is like not advertising blitzes as much as and like his record breaking season. I think that was one of the big downfalls for our defense as a whole. As well as he played, and the production he had was phenomenal, no doubt about it. But it was, if you saw Jamal lined up in a particular look, the better quarterbacks in the league were able to pretty easily identify that he was coming on that one and account for that, go right a different direction with the ball or roll to escape that pressure, prolong the play a bit. And yeah, I agree with you. I would definitely echo that sentiment that he's doing a much better job of kind of making the quarterback unsure of his intent pre-snap.
100%. And I think that there's just some evidence here that these two are this is schemed, right? Maybe it's even a look that they're looking for. Maybe it has something to do with the alignment of the tackle here, and maybe how far off he's playing on the ball, because there is that the belt line rule where you have to be lined up. And some people, depending on the scheme, they might cheat up, they might cheat back. Maybe it's a specific look, because you can even see right here where he's looking directly at Jamal Adams to his left, and he's got the hand up. He's like, listen, man, this is it. I got you. And then he puts his head down, and then look at this. He is lined up right now like an Olympic sprinter, like he's running a 100-yard dash. I think he has very little intention of getting any directionality this way, because even if I'll roll the clip, but if you see it, he runs almost 10 yards, or maybe it's 7 yards, just straight that way, and then sort of kind of hooks this way, and then it just leaves this side of the field just completely open. As you can see here, he just runs directly up the field, and then all of the space between the guard and the tackle there, that's just wide open.
Bends a corner. Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that's one of the biggest things I love about Frank Clark's game is just he's a gritty dude. I mean, he's gonna play exactly how you tell him to. He's it's never an issue of effort when it comes to Clark. I mean, he's a dog, and that was one of the things that, in his first stint with Seattle, that's something that got voiced by the members of the LOB frequently when we drafted him, is that, the kid can work his ass off. And that's why I'm very convinced that him and his second stint here, a lot of people are talking a lot of shit about Frank Clark right now, talking about he's washed up. That's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and he has more in the tank, and I'm very excited to see what he can do with another opportunity on our defense. The last thing I'd say before we cut away, and the last thing I'd like to voice too, just as a little taste of the future for Seahawks fans and NFC West fans alike, because it's going to be affecting them, no doubt. I want to reaffirm what I said earlier about the addition of Leo Williams here. Those double teams that he attracts, this is not your grandpa's Seahawks anymore. the fact that Leo Williams, he's coming out of a Wink Martindale scheme over there with New York. We know the first thing you think of with Martindale and his defenses is they are not afraid to blitz. And unlike prior Seahawks teams, which were much more set up to the bend not break kind of formula of the LOB and what they did, there was a lot of aggression in the way they played, but they didn't take as many chances. And I think that was a big part of why, Jamal Adams in his early stint with us, he got exposed in coverage a few times. And there were times where that blitz, you could account for it and counter it. And we weren't prepared to show quarterbacks other looks and to have a variety in the way we deploy our personnel. But to commend Pete Carroll and Clint Hurt and the way that they've gone about constructing this defense and the way they deploy their personnel, you have a variety of guys who can blitz from any part of the field here. You got Bobby Wagner is one of the best blitzing linebackers in the game. On top of all the other things he's great at. Jordan Brooks is having a phenomenal season getting after the quarterback, sending him on blitzes. Devin Witherspoon is a terror off the edge, the speed he can get to the quarterback at, and we all know the physicality he plays with. He can certainly shed a block. That's not even the end of the list, but at the end of the day, factor Jamal Adams into all of that. The reality is, even the better quarterbacks in the league, the non-PJ Walkers, are going to be confused by the looks they get from this defense. And then Leo Williams in there drawing double teams. I mean, I think that quarterbacks are going to be under fire from the Seahawks defense for the rest of the season, and it's going to be a guessing game on who's coming and who isn't. And I think that's a really, really effective way to play defense, to get elite quarterbacks off their game and the non-elite ones. Brock
100%.
Purdy specifically, we said he's a very decisive guy. He wants to know pre-snap more or less where he's going with the ball. And when you take that opportunity away from quarterbacks, you take that first read away, or you send a look they weren't expecting, it gets in their head. They don't know what direction to go. I mean, like Sam Darnold said, I'm seeing ghosts out there. I think you could see a lot of the same as the Seahawks defense gels together.
100%. Another thing I just want to point out here about this play, if I back this up a little bit, is it Jaron Reed or Jerron Reed?
Jaron Reed, yes.
Jaron Reed. You gotta love a big old 90 right here. Look at it. Look at him calling this play. He's running the ship, it seems to me, on this D line. He kind of walks up here and then he gives this little indication where he sort of like bangs both of his hands. Which I think to me is some sort of like sort of shift maybe of where these blocks are going to go.
Directing traffic out there. I mean,
absolutely directing traffic, because he gives that signal and it causes Brooks here. If you watch Reed here after he gives the signal, then Brooks sort of sticks his arms out wide, which sort of shifts most of the rest of the defense this way. Excuse me. Gives the signal, kicks out wide, and then what ends up happening is, even though he's lined up in like the one eye here on the inside shoulder of the center, he's going to kick out to the guard. This guy's going to kick over to the center, and then we've got Clark here, as we mentioned, just screaming down this way. It's going to force this tackle to kick out this way. This guard, if he tries to go over here and make this play with Jamal Adams screaming in from the edge for the corner blitz, he's either going to miss the play entirely, which he does. He kind of just throws his hands at him, or he's going to get absolutely blown up and he's going to fall backwards into PJ Walker. Just great stuff here from Reed. He's clearly directing traffic. The linebacking core kind of moves there. And as they all shift over there, it just really goes to show that you sort of draw a double team here. Tackle kicks out over there. And then eventually where PJ Walker tries to throw this ball sort of in the middle of the field this way, look at all those bodies that shifted over to the left after Reed sort of was directing traffic there. It's just, you really love to see it. Just great stuff from Reed.
Yeah. And Ryan, that's a big part of the reason that Julian Love is in position to make that interception as the ball drops
100%.
after it's tipped into the air. So great
100%.
commentary, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. You as well, Spencer.